as a business coach, Andy, I work with people all over the globe who are stuck and get them unstuck. And so I love this podcast. It's a platform where my guests can also do the same. And so where in your business have you had a recent stuck and then how did you get unstuck?
Yeah, John, thanks for having me, and always good to chat. Man, it feels like we get stuck every day, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be in Gigster or my overall holding company, Ionic, right? But one recent example is really around culture side of it, and I make this mistake all the time. And every time I do, I'm like, how do I make this mistake again? Which is basically hiring for competency and not hiring for really the cultural and the value side of it, right? And you always think, oh, I can, mold the person into the values that I need within my company and what have you. And that just never is the case. You're better off, training the person up on what you need versus trying to get them, really to shift on the value side, which you can't, right? So that's an example of I recently had a couple of senior management hires that just, great people, great competence, just misaligned a bit on the value side of it, which is kind of our corporation, and as a result, it never works out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's one of the things as a business coach, one of the things I do with some clients is I help them recruit. And so I will be part of an initial 15-minute kind of Zoom interview to just kind of, get a review of them and then do some live interviews too. But it's interesting because sometimes it's such a sliver that you can't tell if they are right or wrong. And what I have come to find, and clients have as well, is when the sliver is there, they're wrong, no matter how close they are. But only hire great. Sometimes, the recruiters don't love to hear that because you're like, oh, this person was great, but this one sliver, right? And I have a client where, sometimes you even give offers or even before the offer phase where the email correspondence is so off that you think this is part of the interview process. So we can't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And again, because, you go through all these interviews and most of them are on the competent side and making sure that they're aligned on that side of the world. But they're, other than just some soft things on the value side, it's hard to really codify that. Right. Yeah. And sure, there's personality tests, but how do you really relate that back and what have you? So that's always, at least in my opinion, just oftentimes where we fail. It's like, how do you go in both of those? And if you are going to err on that side that is just 100% culturally aligned with you.
Right. If you're spending more than 5 to 10 minutes talking about is the right person, the wrong person, they're the wrong person.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's hard to shake yourself off it, right? Because they're confident, and you've interviewed all these people, and you're like, oh, these are the people, right? And so it's hard to convince yourself that no, this is truly a deal breaker.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes I think clients like me to be part of an interview process because I'm bringing a different perspective, and sometimes everyone's too close. I just want to say this before we move on to Andy. Something I find in community is that people are recruiting reactively. And to me, recruiting should be a proactive, ongoing thing because you should be looking at your roster and looking and saying, okay, who may leave because A, they don't want to be here. Maybe they have life changes that they want to move. That whatever it is, you should always be recruiting so you're in a preventative, proactive space when recruiting and not desperate.
Yeah, John, I couldn't agree with you more on that because the problem with the reactive side too is that you then put tons of pressure on them, and I do this, and this is a big error that I make too, put tons of pressure on them right away. Be like, great, you're hired in, you're hired in to perform, get going. You're late, right? Basically, right? When in reality, it's like, no, you're late for hiring that person on a reactive basis versus a proactive basis. And furthermore, you should be like, great, let me give that person enough time to really understand the differences between where they came from and what they need to do in this new role, right? Because it's never one-to-one, right? So if you don't give them that time, they then revert back to all the things that they've done in the past, which may not be the right thing for your business, right? So you have to sit back and be like, no, just learn the organization, learn the people, don't actually make any big decisions out of the chute. But if you go reactive on your hires and you're under the gun, you're like, no, I actually don't have time to wait. Right. And you got to go. And then just all bad things happen. So this is another mistake that, that I've
Recruiting is so hard, and you can hire the right person and still 50% of the people may leave within 3 years.